Welcome to Austin Faith Dialogue. If you're like me, home is a very important place, but the reality is, as you probably know, because you are good and sensitive and kind people, that there are many within our community who do not have homes. Today on Austin Faith Dialogue, I'm going to invite you to visit with me about the Corporation for Affordable Housing and what they're about in our community to provide housing for people. Stay with us on Austin Faith Dialogue.
Austin Faith Dialogue, at the crossroads of religion and life, a series highlighting the cultural and social interactions between the worshiping and religious communities in and around the capital city. Austin Faith Dialogue is brought to you by the Austin Metropolitan Ministries in cooperation with KXAN. Join us now in Austin Faith Dialogue.
Welcome back to Austin Faith Dialogue. I'm Carl Gronberg, host for the program. I'm really glad that you're with us because today we're going to talk about one of my most concerned items in my life, that people have a place to live, a place where they're safe, a home. And I have some special guests with me in Austin Faith Dialogue. I want you to meet Terry Nera. Terry is a social minister for St. Louis Parish here in our community, and also Joan Flood. Joan Flood is also a social minister for St. Mary's Cathedral. To both you, Terry, Joan, welcome to Austin Faith Dialogue. Glad to have you here. Thanks for giving us some of your time. You're involved in a very important mission, a mission to make certain that there is an agency, a way to reach out to people who want a home, and to do it in an affordable way. It's not easy to find affordable housing in Austin these days. Terry, tell us a little bit about Corporation for Affordable Housing, what they're about, where they come from, a little of their history.
The Corporation for Affordable Housing began about summer of 1994 at Austin Metropolitan Ministries. And the purpose of the corporation is, as in its name, to provide affordable housing to people in Central Texas. And in the beginning, the type of housing that was envisioned by the founder, Mr. Thomas Wakely, was transitional housing, rental housing, and housing for purchase.
Maybe we have to define those things. Transitional housing, and Joan, you jump in on this, okay? Because these people who watch Austin Faith Dialogue, they're people who are concerned about our community, and they want to know these definitions and what this is all about. So, transitional housing?
Well, I want to back up a little bit.
Okay.
In the congregations, we see sometimes on a daily basis families coming to us with different housing needs, and those needs fall into these general categories. Transitional housing often is for families who are homeless, who maybe have been living on the streets or in their car, or perhaps are arriving in Austin with inadequate resources, and they need a place to stay temporarily until they can get on their feet. So that would be transitional housing. Okay. The corporation also has strived to provide affordable rental housing because, as we know, in Central Texas, rents can be quite prohibitive. And depending on the wage that the head of household earns, will determine whether they can pay that rent or not. So affordable rents allow a family, again, to be able to increase their ability to pay rent at a higher rate that they might find in Austin. And then affordable housing for purchase is providing houses to families who might not otherwise be able to purchase a home, which in Austin can be quite prohibitive if your salary is not high enough.
Sounds like a great goal. This Tom Wakely who came to Austin and said, let's provide for people who need transitional housing, affordable rentals, affordable housing. But what has happened? How do we go about getting the community? Joan, what about, you're a part of St. Mary's Cathedral, you're involved in their social ministry. How does a congregation kind of latch on to that type of thing? What's the theology behind the concern of people of faith like yourself?
Well, in the Catholic social teaching, we look at every person as having dignity, and part of having human dignity is to have somewhere safe and affordable for people to live so they can raise their children, and also to develop a sense of community. And the community can be a church community or a faith community or just the community around where people live. And if people don't have a safe home environment where their children can be nurtured and that people can kind of grow and develop as people, they can't have dignity. And what the Corporation for Affordable Housing does, they want to build community among the people who are renting in the same neighborhood or people who are purchasing homes and, at the lower rate in the neighborhood, to kind of get to know each other and build up a community so they can strengthen each other and kind of mentor and nurture each other.
This is very exciting to me because it says to me dignity of every human being is at the very bedrock of who people of faith are, but it's also important because you're talking about the life of community. You're talking about what keeps a community growing. And when we're compassionate towards people who are the weakest and the poorest members of the community. Terry, what happened in 1994? How did it go? Did the people on the bandwagon? Did you get a lot of support? Did Tom Wakely find support? How did it grow? And here we are 5 years later. What's been happening?
Well, support came from a variety of congregations of all denominations. The corporation began by applying for funds from the Texas Department of Housing and Community Affairs, and fortunately received a low-interest loan of over $300,000 to begin building houses in Manor. And 5 houses for rent were built. Also in Manor, congregations pitched in to rehabilitate houses that already existed in Manor. I think there are maybe about 400 or so houses in Manor, and the corporation rehabilitated maybe 40. So that's 10%
yeah, that's great.
of the houses in Manor. And people from various denominations just pitched in and went out together, and on a Saturday or Sunday usually, and painted homes, put on new roofs, and did other repairs. So on the weekend, it was just really wonderful to see youth and adults from various congregations working together, and it was wonderful. And I'll never forget the first house that I painted. The family had gone through lots of samples of colors for their home and had chosen a beautiful bright purple. So if you go downtown Manor and spot a purple house,
You painted that house.
That was one of the first
That's
houses
great.
that the corporation painted. Yeah.
Joe mentioned the statement regarding dignity, Terry, and also the sense of community. How do you respond to that as a social minister in St. Louis Parish and as a person of faith? What does that mean to you?
That statement is very important to our congregation because a family can have a physical structure to live in that's provided through the generosity of the congregation members. But if the family does not feel that relationship with members of the community, then there's a big part of the housing ministry missing, as far as I'm concerned.
See, I think what Terry is saying, and Joe, I want to get you in this discussion because what it seems to me is that Terry is saying that not only do we want to, with people of goodwill in our community, establish places where people have a sense of being, a sense of safety, but we're also saying we want to establish with them and for them a sense of relationship with themselves, with God, with the community around them. How do you relate to that, Joe?
I think it's very important because a lot of times people who become homeless through circumstances or substances, they become apart from the rest of the community and they're alienated. So if they can be reintegrated and find a sense of community and belonging, because I think the sense of being apart keeps them from being reintegrated into the work situation, into maintaining a home, because it's an everyday struggle for everybody to get up every morning, go to work. And if you don't have any support or any sense of, purpose at the end of the day of why am I doing this, it's really hard to keep going every day if you think, well, there's no reason for me to get up in the morning and go to work. But if you see that everybody else is doing it and they're doing as much work as you are doing and they're doing okay, it helps you kind of continue along the struggle. And I think a lot of times people who become homeless are often, they don't have the family support, they don't have friends, they're from out of state. For whatever reason, maybe they have substance abuse problems.
And the faith community can help provide that.
Exactly.
What about St. Mary's congregation, the cathedral? What's going on there in terms of the Corporation for Affordable Housing? How can they be an example to congregations who are watching?
Well, St. Mary's is just kind of more recently got involved, you know, in the Corporation for Affordable Housing, and what we would like to see is maybe people from the congregation mentor and work with homeless families or families who are potentially homeless, or just to kind of help them get involved in the community, because we're a downtown parish, so we see a lot of the homeless situations and the street people that you don't see in the suburbs and the outerlying areas.
Right. Are the congregations in downtown Austin relating to one another and talking about this issue? I know that some of the congregations open up their doors when it's cold out, that type of experience of ministry.
Yes,
Is there some type of clustering?
There's a downtown cluster of churches. We meet once a month, and some of the churches have spaces and facilities where they house homeless people and the freeze nights, and then the other churches like St. Mary's, we don't have the space, but we work as a support church, helping them with volunteers and blankets and food and clothing.
So if people who are watching Austin Faith Dialogue would want to say, I want to know more about it, they could contact Joan Flood at St. Mary's Cathedral.
Sure, yeah.
And you would be able to tell them, this is where we have been.
Yeah.
We're not trying to be a super parish, but rather we're trying to find our way, because you're kind of new to Corporation for Affordable Housing. And you're president of the board, is that right?
That's right, yeah.
Wow, you have a heavy responsibility.
Exactly,
You're going to kind of
yeah.
keep Tom Wakely in line? Is that your
I'll
responsibility?
try.
What are some of your goals for the Corporation for Affordable Housing? What would you like to see done?
I'd like to see, as maybe we're working right now on some grants and maybe get some more funding from some foundations and faith-based organizations that give funding to nonprofits, and also we're looking at a project in East Austin where we're going to put property and build some more affordable housing there, and do also some economic development in neighborhoods to kind of help rejuvenate neighborhoods where the economy is not doing so well. You know, parts of East Austin and neighborhoods like that.
Are you excited about being a part of Corporation for Affordable Housing?
Yes, I think it's a good opportunity for faith communities to get involved, and where they can actually see the face of a person who is homeless, because a homeless person isn't necessarily a street person that sleeps in doorways. It's families who are doubling up in apartments with friends and relatives because they can't afford to pay high rents when they don't, you know, they make a low salary.
Joan Flood, we're really glad that you're on the Corporation Board and that you are president of that board in St. Mary's Cathedral, and we thank you for being in Austin Faith Dialogue. And we're going to take a break momentarily, and then we're going to have another guest come on and talk about his experience with Corporation for Affordable Housing. And Terry, we're going to ask you to stay with us, okay? And for all of you, please stay with us on Austin Faith Dialogue. We'll be right back. Thank you. Welcome back to Austin Faith Dialogue. We're talking about a very important issue, that of housing in our community, and talking about how we respond to the needs of people who do not have a home. Corporation for Affordable Housing is one of those agencies that's in our community, and there are people of faith who are working to reach out to those who don't have a home, and we want you, the audience of Austin Faith Dialogue, to be a part of this experience. Now, you met Terry Nera, the first part of the program, but they didn't meet you. And Cato Sherman, we're glad to have you here. You're a member of St. Stephen's Missionary Baptist
Church.
Congregation,
Yes,
right? And you are the coordinator of the deacons of that congregation,
Yes,
right?
I am.
And I have heard that you have had a little history with Corporation for Affordable Housing. Is that right?
I was the past president. John Flood took over the first of the year, and I've been with the corporation now for about 2 years. Been a very exciting 2 years, very fulfilling 2 years. However, I was very glad to step down.
You have seen then the fruition of the building of some homes in the Corporation for Affordable Housing.
We've been I have personally been very actively involved, especially in our Manor project. As Joan and Terry said, we were fortunate enough to receive a low-interest loan from the State Housing Development Department, Community Development Department, some 2+ years ago. And with those funds, we were able to actually build 5 rental properties and renovate a 6th property. We are probably now 95% complete with those properties. They're just about ready to hit the rental market. In addition to that, about a year ago, we secured from one of the local banks a low-interest loan to build 5 houses for sale in the same area on some lots that were donated to the corporation. And I don't know, I guess I could use this opportunity to say that we're still in the position of accepting donations from both the faith community and any of the communities that wants to help and get in and become involved. I don't think everyone can come out and actually work. We can't all paint on the weekends like Terry did. But there's always something that people in the community around the Austin area can do to help the corporation. And so we're very fortunate.
Terry, you said you've been with the corporation since its very birth in 1994, and you've seen it grow, and you've seen it reach out to the community, building homes that can be purchased and building rental properties. You mentioned at the start of the program, you talked about housing, transition housing and rental housing, and then homes to be purchased. Now, for people who want to be a part of any one of those areas, how do they go about getting in touch with Corporation for Affordable Housing, and how would they go about finding out about transitional housing and rental housing and houses that could be purchased?
Well, they can simply call the office, which is in East Austin, and find out from the director, Tom Wakely, about the housing ministry that are available for congregations to be involved in. We also have an annual housing conference, which in past years has been held at Gethsemane Lutheran Church and St. Louis Catholic Church. And another one is planned for early this year. And at this conference, a lot of very knowledgeable housing experts come from Texas as well as other parts of the country. And it's just very exciting because there is a lot of information given to congregations how to get started in the housing ministry as part of a congregational network. And there are a lot of opportunities. The opportunities are really endless.
What's the name of the conference?
Making Room at the Inn.
Making Room at the Inn.
Yes.
That's interesting, isn't it? We just gone through Christmas and into Epiphany, and we talked about no room in the inn and making room in the inn. So your job in Corporation for Affordable Housing, Cato, is not only to build rental properties and properties to be purchased, but also to educate the community. Is that correct?
Even more than that, we embarked about a year or two ago on a program of not only providing housing, both transitional and permanent housing, but trying to educate both the individuals that come directly to us for housing needs, and more than that, to educate the community, the faith-based community, the churches, the synagogues, to explain to these people that we have an obligation as a community of people, no matter the denomination, no matter the congregation, but we have an obligation. We've been pretty successful in doing that with the individuals that we come in contact with. Problem is, there's so many out there that we don't get an opportunity to talk to.
Well, just a second. They're panning right now on the camera. They're showing some of the things on the screen for the groundbreaking and what faith communities are accomplishing. Can you tell us a little bit about what's going on? You saw the groundbreaking. Here's what faith communities are accomplishing. Talk a little bit about that, the excitement. You were there at the groundbreaking? Talk about that. What did you feel like when you were there in the groundbreaking for these places, these homes?
Well, it was a cool April morning in 1996. And I remember the words of the director, Thomas Wakely, when I was actually president of the board at that time. And he took me to look at the plot of land and said, someday we'll build houses on this land. And
That's a
I was-
visionary statement, huh?
Yeah, and I was not believing at that point. So that morning, with young people, with pastors, with people from the Maynard community gathered and singing praises to God, it was just incredible. It was an incredible feeling. And when the soil was turned, it was with a lot of joy, excitement for the future, because even before the ground was turned, families came to us who had never been able to afford a home. And some of the houses that we rehabilitated were in very bad shape, so they were looking forward to maybe having some new homes to move into themselves.
You've been president of the board. Joan was the first part of the program, who's now the president of the board, Joan Flood. And Cato, you've been president of the board. To be a part of this type of mission, this type of ministry among people of faith, you recognize that it's work, isn't it? It's challenge, isn't it? If you were going to invite a congregation within our Austin community to be a part of the Corporation for Affordable Housing, what would you say to them? What would you invite them to? Like Tom Wakely said to you, we're going to build on this land. You know, that's a faith statement. And there was no money, huh? But we're going to build upon it. What would you say to a congregation that you're inviting to be a part of the corporation?
Be visionary. Somehow or another, we have to realize that nothing that the human mind can imagine is an impossibility with God. Somehow or another, we've got to understand that these people didn't ask to be homeless. They didn't ask to be disenfranchised. But the results of being homeless are, we see it every day. We see it in the crime rate. We see it in children that are falling or dropping out of school, or sometimes can't even go to school because they don't have an address. We see it in the underemployed. And we pay a cost. It's cheaper, statistics have proven this, to put someone in a house than it is to incarcerate them for 10 or 15 years. So the question in my mind is, if I'm a congregation, wherever I'm at, wouldn't it be easier to help someone help themselves than to pay the price of incarcerating them for 20 or 30 years? We need to communicate that somehow or another.
In other words, it makes good business sense.
Very good business.
Not just good sense from the point of view of faith community, but it makes good business sense to be involved in helping people find a place. What are the benefits, Terry? You're a social minister at St. Louis Parish. What are the benefits that you see in families who find a place to live, a roof over their head?
Well, first of all, we try with each family to have a bouquet of flowers ready at the home and a team from the congregation there to greet them. And it's just a miracle to see the smiles on their faces, because sometimes they've been homeless for quite a while, and it's a miracle to them to finally have a roof over their heads, especially if there are children involved, which almost always is the case. And to see the smiles on the children's faces is really a feeling that's almost indescribable.
In your congregational community, do you have a team that works in this area, or how
Yes,
do you
we
handle
do.
that? What,
Yes.
What are ways that congregations could learn?
Well, what we try to do is to invite, first of all, congregational members who have been homeless themselves, because they can empathize more with the family and what they're struggling through. So they give moral support to the family that they will get through it and they will get to a better place someday, and that we will try to help them by giving them moral support, perhaps watching their children now and then, bringing food if they need, clothing, furniture, appliances. Our congregational members often donate refrigerators and stoves, either new or in good use condition. And transportation is provided when needed, when we can do that. And we have an auto repair shop close to our congregation that will provide repairs at a reasonable cost. So all those things together really help the families get to a better place.
You know, Cato, what this says to me, there's a lot of good news in this world. You realize that?
Yes.
There are a lot of people who are doing good stuff, and this congregation is one of them that's doing wonderful things in the name of God to benefit and help people. And Terry, that's very exciting to me to hear that type of thing. What about,
We-
this is a large
Right.
parish, St. Louis now. What about your home congregation?
We probably have 900, maybe 1,000 members, so I would assume a medium-sized congregation. But we've done some very exciting things in the last 10 years. We've got a very progressive, forward-looking pastor, and I thank God for that. The church said some 13 years ago, no matter what, 10% of whatever comes in the front door goes directly to social ministries, irrespective of what it costs to keep the lights on. If we have to turn the lights off, we're going to still do this. We've been very successful. We started a housing program in the congregation some 6 years ago. We've turned 11 renters into homeowners. It's exciting. It's exciting to see people who've never owned a home, who've always rented, actually graduate and move into a home that belongs to them, that they own. It's exciting to see people come off the street who've moved from place to place, never had a place they could call their own for more than 6 months, to say, I live here, and I know I'm going to live here, and when I leave here, I'm going to buy a home. And when you see this, and people come back and say, hey, look, I own my home, it just kind of feeds on itself. And so we see these types of things. We've instituted a clothing ministry. We've instituted a food pantry. We're doing some things right now that I'm really excited about. But even more than that, I'm hearing rumors around the community that there are some things that churches are talking about doing.
That other congregations are wanting to do.
That's
Regarding
exciting.
the Corporation for Affordable Housing, we just have a couple minutes left, all right? I'd like you each to tell our viewing audience of Austin Faith Dialogue, this is what it's meant to you to be a part of Corporation for Affordable Housing. Terry, you've been there since the beginning. What's it meant to you?
What it's meant to me is that who otherwise would have no place to go have found not only a place to live, but a loving family, congregational family, to
A
form
support
relationships
system.
with. And it is just beyond telling what that does for my faith development anyway.
Cato, real short. What has it meant to you?
Quickly, working with people from all walks of life and all faith walks, it's just been exciting.
And we invite you to be a part of Corporation for Affordable Housing. We invite you to see the value, the dignity of each and every human being. And we invite you and your congregation to speak to your pastor, to your rabbi, to those who are spiritual leaders of our community, and invite them to get in contact with Corporation for Affordable Housing. You'll be the beneficiaries of cooperating with God and helping other people of our community to live a life filled with meaning and significance. Thanks for watching Austin Faith Dialogue. We look forward to having you with us again next week. Peace be with you in building the kingdom.